Actually, a collection I want to get your thoughts on is the last Margiela collection. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. Like, it was, I believe, the first ready-to-wear Margiela collection we've seen from Glenn. What were your thoughts on this, actually? I'm curious. This was Glenn's second collection.
Yeah. I like the idea of a children's orchestra playing. I really love that. I found that so sweet, like professional in a great way, which is a very Margiela thing. Margiela already, in one of his first catwalks, he had children running around. That was so beautiful. So I like that, but the collection itself, I cannot say I was impressed, but I was not expecting different things from Glenn, to be honest. That's what I was expecting from him. Things that are more wearable. He used the codes, of course, but does this say anything? I mean, maybe that we can buy again things that look like Margiela and we don't need to buy them as archival pieces. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is this a good thing? Maybe yes. In terms of people who love Martin, they can now wear already also things that look very much like Martin. But in terms of creativity and a personal point of view on how he interprets Martin, I think it was not successful. I didn't find it particularly exciting or interesting. It was very, how to say that? I would say it was almost like quickly made, like
Yeah.
easy collection, very easy collection. For sure, maybe there are going to be pieces that when you see close up, there might be interesting that I might have missed a few pieces. But like if we see at the overall collection, I'm not, like what, for example, this denim with the cotton, how they're called, like attachments, like these are
Yeah.
such simple things that we have seen already. And I mean, all like I don't know. It's not much to say. I mean, it was very the mouth, like the piece, that Inge Grognard did on that. I found it funny. No, but I love her, by the way. She's my favorite
Yeah,
makeup.
I
Who
love
doesn't
I
know
love
Inge?
Inga.
They should know her. She's iconic. She has done Balenciaga. She has worked with Martin from the very beginning, from his bachelor collection, even, which I didn't know. She has
Even
been
she's worked with
Belgian
Dries,
too.
yeah. Anze Menemist, yeah.
I mean, this is very much Glenn. This mouthpiece is like when we do teeth whitening. It reminds me of that a little bit. How we open our mouth like that. Is this a Margiela thing? No, but like it reminds me a little bit of, in terms of energy, of his couture collection, his first couture collection. It has like this kind of a little bit dark aspect to it, a little bit of horror, but the clothes, the shoes, neither. I was not impressed by the shoes. That's another thing. There were no bags at all, I think. But
You know
that's
what
okay.
fascinated me about this collection actually?
Yeah,
It just made me think when I first saw this collection that why is it that modern designers feel the need to use like shock factor to garner attention? And what I mean by that is like,
yeah,
what's the reason that Margiela did the stitches in the first place? It's to have like a recognizable signature that was a
yeah,
bit incognito, which is very in line with the house codes of the brand.
yeah,
So taking something that the philosophy of it is about being incognito and then plastering it front and center by like making a 4-stitch mouth guard is so 21st century. I don't, it's just so like social
mm.
media designing for social media in a way,
Yes, yes,
where you're
exactly.
taking something that was not intended to be front and center and you're almost flipping that idea on its head. And now that can be done well. We've seen that with different designers, like Karl Lagerfeld would take Coco Chanel's philosophy and flip it on its head, but do it in a really interesting and fun way. But I
Yeah,
think that the difference is Karl Lagerfeld is like one of the greatest designers we've ever seen, and so the way he does it, it's just a bit more intelligent and a bit more intellectual than just having
yeah,
like mouth guards front and center.
yeah.
So that was like the first thing that came to mind when I thought about
Yeah,
stuff like
this
that.
doesn't look intellectual. It looks like it's what you say. It's like a shock value. It's exactly that. It doesn't look so intellect. It doesn't look intellectual, and that's what disturbs me with Glenn doing Margiela. Now, if it will sell, it might. It might do well, actually.
I think it will sell because like there's new people getting into fashion every day, and there's people
Yeah,
that will get into Margiela and they haven't been able to buy a lot of the pieces that they see in the archive. So I think this is like a good entryway for that.
yeah.
But besides that, there's not really much there. What did Luke say? What do you think about all the journalists Vanessa Friedman, Pearl clutching about the models wearing those mouth gimmicks? Some saw it as misogynistic, which is a reach since men wore them too. But
Yeah.
before I answer this, Luke, what was the argument that they were making for them being misogynistic? Because yeah, like men and women are wearing it, but if they had a good point, then I'm definitely open to listening. But I don't know what exact points were made.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think it's a bit far-fetched to say it's misogynistic.
Yeah, especially when like men and women are wearing it. Maybe they were looking at it from the perspective of like fetish, but like I mean,
Yeah.
men and women do it's not like a singular
Yeah.
thing.
Exactly.
Let's see. They linked it to the Elias show and questioned if men were designing with real women in mind. I mean, I know what you're talking about with like the like cape, you know, like the ones where the hands were kind of like restricted. I know what you're talking about. I think the Elia thing you could put into question more. You could ask that question a bit more than here. I think it's less apparent here.
Yeah. But even the last collection at Alaya with like it felt more like a cocooning for me than a restricting thing. I didn't get that feeling at all. And I mean the way he designs, I don't feel has any misogyny in it. It's more
Yeah.
construction and I mean it was not my favorite idea of he has presented much more interesting things, but like I wouldn't put it in that category.
Yeah, I do think though there is like it does seem like there's a section of the internet where it's like the tiniest thing. It's like that person shouldn't design for women or that person shouldn't design for men, especially when it's like let's say like a woman designing menswear. You'll see a lot of men being like, "Why are women designing menswear?" Da, da, da. And then vice versa. But I just
Yeah.
don't agree with any of those opinions. Like, I don't have any issue with like Wells Bonner designing menswear because I think
Oh
she does
yeah,
good menswear
definitely. Or
and
Martin
she works
Rose.
with Savile Row tailors. Like, and the same thing with women's wear. Like, I think most people won't have an issue with Alexander McQueen designing women's wear.
Yeah.
So it just depends on who it is. I think we have to judge the merit of the clothing
Yes.
rather than like what gender is the person that's designing the clothes. Unless like there's something like really outrageous that they're doing, then obviously it's like relevant.
Yeah. I
See,
mean, of
without the
course,
mouthpieces, the clothes wouldn't be as interesting to me, honestly.
with the mouthpieces, they stay uninteresting. I mean, it's not.
She's like,
It's not
even
like
with the
mouthpieces.
mouthpieces.
I mean, you're gonna look at the clothes as well, regardless of the makeup or accessorizing or whatever. But so yeah, nothing much to say.
Yeah. Uni, can you expand on what you mean by women are marked, so it doesn't matter if men wore it too? Can you expand on that, just so I can understand where you're coming from?
Yeah.
This is just all too manufactured and pristine for it to feel authentically tethered to the philosophy of Martens Margiela. Yeah, and also Margiela is not supposed to be clean. It's not like
Yeah.
even the set. Like even if they're on an orchestra, like why isn't the set like kind of decaying in a way, or like why is it so? It's too clean. It's like Margiela is never that clean ever.
But
Margiela is supposed to be
honest,
somewhat chaotic.
when everything was painted white, I guess that cleanliness comes from that. That they have all the furniture and then the walls, everything was in white. So I guess that's perceived as the clean aspect of Margiela. But I agree with you.
But so Margiela, the thing about Margiela is, okay, he used a lot of white, but I think people then, so like you'll see designers design at Margiela and then the whole set will be white. But it's like, Margiela would have a decaying paper mache white.
Yes, yes.
It wouldn't be just a plain white wall. It would be like, yes, it would be white, but things would be kind of falling apart and falling on top of each other.
No,
And
because
like
I mean, if you
things.
think about it, the whole core of how he was even approaching clothes, everything was about the process, like
Yeah.
what things become. Like that's why you had the lining inside, the
Yeah.
stitching,
Exposed
and it's part of
stitching.
how clothes are made. Like it's a process. He loved that, like the process, the transitionary aspect of something. So yeah, in that sense, of course, it cannot stay clean and perfect. It has to
Yeah.
trans something else.
Like
That's
in his clothing, he would highlight the chaos of like being a designer. Like he would have those pieces that are referencing like a Stockman mannequin, for example.
yeah.
So when you have a designer that designs in that way, it's like it should feel like chaos. It should feel like we're in a design studio. It should feel like, I mean, like look at the collection that this is referencing, right? With the kids running around. That was not planned.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
kids were running around because they didn't have a lot of money to get like a fancy venue. So they just had to, find this like makeshift venue and like there's kids running around, there's chaos. People don't know how to get there. That's like Margiela. That's the core essence of what Margiela is. You can't, and that's why it feels too contrived when it's just like, there's clean white, clean curtains, clean floors. It's just not very Margiela. Clean composers. It's too clean for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's too clean. I hope it will not start looking like diesel soon.
Right. I mean,
Because
I can see some of the denim pieces kind of
yeah, that's
looking
what I'm
like
telling
diesel.
you. I don't want, but yeah. And I mean, some like another thing is some of the pieces, the way they're made, like this black, for example, and this with the tape, they could be styling projects, like editorial work, like the
Yeah.
stylist and create something out of a dress. So would you call that an interesting piece of clothing? No, not really.
Yeah, stylists already do that anyway. So,
Exactly, that's the point. That's the thing. So, like here, we should be able to see styling, but not in that sense. Like how you put clothes together if you want to create a persona, or how you put clothes together, but not to create like that kind of construction piece that the stylist would do. Then
yeah.
probably he would not sell it anyways. It would this piece. I don't think you cannot buy that. It would not come out in the stores. Yeah.
Said the orchestra is not clean, the bowing was a mess. They're kids, so it's forgivable. Yeah, I just meant in like how it looks aesthetically, but yeah, they're just
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like actual skill of playing instruments, obviously they're not there.
I
'Cause
think
they're
this was
kids.
purpose, of course,
Yeah.
but this was fun. I would say it was interesting. I wouldn't be disturbed by this really.
I think it might take Glenn a while to shake off some of his more blander commercial leanings because
Yeah,
Margiela had more thoughtful imagination. Agreed. Agreed. And
it,
especially because he has to think in a very like diesel. I mean, he had the H&M collab recently. Y Project was like very commercial, like super
yes, yes,
commercial. With like all the denim pieces and the jackets and stuff. So yeah, that's a good point.
yeah. I think it's intentional.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to shake that off. I think he wants to continue like this. And my fear is that maybe he will be pushed also to continue like this because it might sell more. Not necessarily, but it might sell more. It's more digestible. So,
Yeah.
and that's the problem in general with brands now.
Yeah, so Luke, when to answer this, so when I think of Margiela historically, the thing about Margiela is that you can't really, as a designer at Margiela, I don't think you can really do like really grand things unless it's rooted in storytelling. So with the collection I know that Luke does not like, the famous John Galliano and Margiela collection, I thought that made a lot of sense because the storytelling is like in like this French underworld of like clubbing, and that was kind of like the theme. That is akin to Margiela because Margiela when you think of Margiela historically, it sits in that underground in a way, a lot of times out of necessity and not being able to afford more
Yes.
expensive things. So I think things that are too grand don't actually look very Margiela, or they don't seem very Margiela, or they don't even give you the feeling of a Margiela. If a venue is too big, it doesn't give a feeling of Margiela because Margiela is not grand in that way.
Yeah.
It's not. So I don't know how you strike that balance in the modern day when you're trying to make the brand bigger, but I guess that's the task that, Glenn has.
I mean, to be honest, after Galliano, it's a difficult task because it's another genius who, in my opinion, it worked very well. Such an unexpected appointment, but he he created Margiela, but in his own way, which is such a hard thing to do
Yeah.
because he used the codes, but in a maximalistic way. And of course, the clothes were fantastic. I can testify because I have, so I can tell they're very good quality clothes. Now, after that, yeah, how to create or how to continue the legacy, or not even the legacy, but at least like to have a point of view that is rebellious. Like if we talk about the essence of Margiela, it should be at least that.
Yeah.
At least, you don't necessarily need to use all the codes. But I mean, in other brands, they don't do that. Like in Jill Sander, you don't have the codes anymore of Jill Sander, like in so many brands. But it doesn't mean it's not interesting and we shouldn't be discussing about it and they are not innovating things. So we don't need to necessarily to be obsessed also about, the codes of Margiela. But like the
Yeah.
essence, which is a much deeper thing, that's maybe where the discussion should be. It has to have some, and Glenn is not that kind of person.
And that's what I'm talking about, because even whether you follow the codes or not, I can still get a feeling of Margiela based on
Yes.
kind of like what I'm saying. If it's too clean, it doesn't feel very Margiela. When
Yes.
Galliano was at Margiela, he made sure it was chaotic.
Yeah.
Like when, a good example, my favorite period of John Galliano at Margiela was during COVID. And during COVID, I think there was so much chaos. It was like, this is so Margiela. Like, John Galliano is doing these podcasts and he's talking about how difficult it was finding the right dye for a collection and how they were like going all over the place trying to dye these garments. And then they have these like swart collections and you have John Galliano talking about his process and you see John Galliano on the floor kind of making patterns and then he's directing people and then he's like, you know, cutting a garment because he's like, I don't like the shape of that. That is the chaos that you like associate with Margiela. So it felt so authentic. It's like,
Yes.
it felt so Margiela, even though it wasn't. It was John Galliano.
But because it was authentic, you see, I mean, the thing about Margiela is authenticity also. So in that sense, it's a common denominator. It's authenticity in the end of the day. It's not that much caring about how much you sell. I don't know how much Margiela was selling during Galliano. I don't think that much really, to be honest. But still, everybody will remember him. I mean, this collection, this last collection will be maybe be taught, you know, it's educational material. It's not, and that's the value of it.
Yeah.
As you said, who will we remember and for what? Okay, it sells. Well, I mean, we want beautiful clothes to sell. We're not saying they shouldn't sell, actually, on the contrary. Yeah, this was one of my very favorite ones. And
Yeah,
that, like,
insane.
that pink, it's the one that I'm wearing now today. It's the same fabric.
Yeah. So it's just like, I just need to see a bit more chaos from Glenn. It needs to be less clean. It needs to be a bit more intimate. It needs to be more focused on the process of making clothes. And you can actually show that. Like, even in that collection we just saw, there's not really a big focus on like the process of clothing. I didn't really see any of those elements in that collection. So yeah, it just needs to be, and that's the thing. I think John Galliano really truly understood the essence of Margiela, but like made it his own.
Yes.
And that's what I loved about his whole time, Margiela. Like, he understood it's about chaos. He understood it's about like these underground stories. I just don't, it really isn't that hard to understand though. It like just isn't that hard to understand.
Yeah.
Margiela blew up during Galliano. Financially, he was amazing for the brand success. Yeah, and like, I think when tabbies went mainstream was Galliano. Because I remember when I first got into fashion people used to wear tabbies all the time, but it was only like a purely fashion thing. Whereas now, I have so many friends that aren't into fashion, but they're like, oh, have you seen those horse shoes? Like those shoes that look like horse feet and all that sort of stuff. It's like fully mainstream in a way that, you know, Margiela never was before, especially when I first got into fashion. It was very, very niche, actually, now that I think about it. Like, when I first got into fashion, Margiela was quite niche.
And ironically, it was the only, you know, he designed only this pair of shoes because he needed to pay otherwise money to create like this kind, like how we call that, like the thing that we create to create the shoe, you know, like I don't know how it's called. So he couldn't afford more. So it's so interesting that so many things came out of that, out of necessity, because there was no other choice for him.
Yeah, because, oh my God. During COVID, like, those swart collections are, I will forever talk about those collections.
Yeah.
Those Margiela swart collections were so good. Like, I'm just like, yeah. And it's like, when you look at the videos, like, look at how chaotic they look. This is so Margiela coded.
Yes, yes.
It's so Margiela coded. So I think sometimes people misunderstand the philosophy of Margiela a lot because they just think white lab coat, it has to look like a lab. It has to look clean. I think that's where people misunderstand it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Glenn has to tell his story in Margiela tone, voice, cadence, not Margiela stories in the context of the current landscape. And I do believe he will find his feet, well, if time allows. For sure. I mean, we know that they have a lot of faith in him. I mean, like, he's been making them loads of money at Diesel.
Yeah.
So if anything, I mean, like, you know, yeah, I think he's going to have a lot of time. Like, OTB definitely are going to have time for him, considering he's also at Diesel.
For sure.
But like, these collections, guys, if you guys haven't seen these videos, I'll show you guys. You need to watch these videos. It's called Swalk. This is the Autumn Winter 2020 collection. And after, you need to watch Swalk 2. This was during COVID. This was, like, to me, peak, like, John Galliano and Margiela. Obviously, I've liked a lot of, like, John Galliano throughout the years. But, like, for me, during COVID, I think maybe it's it's like a nostalgia thing also, because during
Yeah.
COVID, he was talking so much about the process through like the podcast and like everything else, where you really got a deep insight into the collections and kind of what he was thinking and like all the work that went into it and how difficult it was to create some, you know, pieces. So yeah, these graphs look like, what's that YouTuber that has those graphs? Oh, what's her name? She talks about menswear all the time. She has like Venn diagrams and pie charts and stuff like that. I've forgotten her name, but she like makes really cool videos. She's like blowing up. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind the scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.